Hi, welcome to day 4 of our journey into mental health and healing. I'm Dr. Michelle Graydon. Thank you for listening to the Healing Mind podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about anxiety. Last week, we talked about the importance of the therapeutic relationship. But today, as we move forward, we're thinking about anxiety. And I think this affects most of us, why it happens, how to manage it effectively. Anxiety is such a huge predicator of the essentials for mental health. I think most people experience anxiety, and anxiety really, you have to think about anxiety and what it is. And anxiety is a natural response to perceive threats. And those threats become overwhelming. And then you have these panic attacks, rapid heartbeat, sweating, tension, stomach aches, things like that. But you have to understand that anxiety is not a bad thing, because anxiety is really one of those things that allows you to get things done, right? So it's not really the anxiety that's the problem. It's modulating it and figuring out how to make yourself calmer. But if you think about anxiety, it's not really the bad guy. It's the way that we're allowing it to escalate and making us feel all of these things within our bodies. Feel like your heart's racing, and then you get diaphoretic, and then and things like that. So it's very real, because that's what you're telling your body to do from your brain. You're saying, oh, I'm having anxiety. Okay, so now I'm going to have this, this, and this. But if you think about it in general, anxiety has always been good. Anxiety has been good because what makes you get your tasks done? What makes you successful? If you didn't have any anxiety, you'd be like, I don't care, I'm fine if it gets done. So anxiety isn't really the bad thing. It's modulating your anxiety, making it a healthy, anxiety, because sometimes you need to, get that motivation to do something. And if you're not anxious and you don't care about it, sometimes that's a motivating factor, right? You can have a little anxiety, because that's not what the bad guy is. That's what's made a lot of people very successful. So you have the irritability, racing thoughts, difficulty concentrating, catastrophizing, is my favorite. Every time I do this, this is always what happens. Anytime I feel this way, this is what happens. So you're already presetting the response set from yourself or the universe, right? Because if you're saying this always happens, then you've already said it. So we have the linguistics, we have the reticular activating system. So now you're telling yourself, this is what's going to happen over here, because you already said it. So that's what's going to happen, because that's what you inputted into your neuronal system. So I think that's, catastrophizing is a very hard trait for a lot of people to get rid of. And I think they do that a lot as a general coping. And I often wonder, when you do that as you're coping, is the catastrophizing somehow making you feel safe and comfortable because you already know the end result? And maybe that's really where the disconnect lies and the anxiety lies, in that process of saying, okay, well, I already know it's going to end up like this. So then I'm prepared, because I already know I never get what I want. Again, you're tying yourself up into all those linguistics, which are very hard to get out of. And that's the difference in what I do, because that really is the neuropsychiatry aspect of everything, that those things are very real, and you are doing things by telling your brain what to do. But there's several types of anxiety disorders. Generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder goes along with that a lot of times. Social anxiety, OCD. PTSD is listed under an anxiety disorder because it does require that anxious response. You're hypervigilant, you're reactive, and it was originally done for people in the military, but people have very traumatic lives, and the same systems operate in that. And then you have your phobias. There's tons of phobias. Now, the phobias are very reactive to desensitization therapy, and that's where you slowly introduce these things. Like, a lot of people have a phobia of snakes, me included. So I moved to Arizona, and clearly we have a lot of snakes here. So what I started doing was reprogramming my mind that every time I turned the corner, I saw a snake, and even walking through my house. So it almost became, it just desensitized me to the idea that I'm going to walk around the corner and see a snake. And sure enough, we've had 4 rattlesnakes here that we had to relocate. But I didn't have that fear response. I had no physiological response to my brain saying I'm fearful. Why? Because I trained my brain not to be fearful. I trained my brain to accept that every time I went around the was going to see a snake. Or every time I walked out into the garage, I was going to see a snake. And so that's kind of what the desensitization therapies do. And it's very helpful for a lot of people that have specific phobias, because it's very difficult to tell them your fear or your phobia is irrational, because none of them are irrational. They're all real. Snakes are real. Spiders are real. My reaction to them is what I'm able to control. Now, that being said, I don't like seeing them. I'm not happy about it, but I don't have the fear response. And that's what you're trying to do. And the brain chemistry is an overactive amygdala. Now, the amygdala holds the emotional memories, and that's why anxiety is so big in that section of the brain, because it's encoding all of those things that you have had a fear response to, and that is contributing to that staying in your memory system. So also negative thought patterns, trauma, environmental stresses, stress from work. Everybody has stress from work. Everybody has stress from life balances and social pressures. Now that's a whole new, area of research, the social pressures. Before, we didn't see everybody's life. Now we see everybody's life, or what they want us to see of their life. So now we have this other whole pathology of thinking that everybody else's life is greater than yours, when you know nothing about their struggles. You know nothing about their daily life, really. You get to see glimpses of what people want you to see. So I think it's, that adds a bunch of pressures in the social pressures, which before social pressures, I didn't see a lot of people that said, I'm just not performing as well as everybody else. You might have that general opinion, but now you have data points. Now we have proof that somebody else's life is better than yours, if you choose to accept that that is their life. Those are the things that you can work on. But, neuroplasticity, this is what I talk about in retraining your brain and rewiring those networks. You can rewire your thought pattern out of an anxious thought process. And that's what is done through the journaling, and is done through just really linguistics. Stop telling yourself you're anxious. Stop telling yourself that the anxiety you're feeling is real. Just there's a ton of little tricks to the trade for the anxiety. It is very debilitating for a lot of people. And, you have to try a couple different things to see how your brain works. I mean, that's what really prompted me into the neuropsychological assessments, because to me, the brain is this fantastic puzzle, and everybody's brain is different. So there's no quote normal brain. Everybody processes differently. I can do 30 different subtests for a neuropsychological assessment and put them all together, with the different systems of memory, your short-term memory, long-term memory, your recall, all of these things, and put together a map of your brain and tell you where your strengths and weaknesses are. Because it's always strengths and weaknesses. Nobody has everything. The brain just doesn't work like that. If your right brain is highly motivated, then you're more creative in general. And then if your left brain, you're more linear. So you have to kind of look at that. And so what got me in doing the neuropsych assessments was, like I said, I'm like putting together this puzzle that makes up this whole brain and how this person processes and what they do. But for you guys, what's one thing about anxiety you wish more people understood? Drop me a comment or a DM and let me know, and I can attend to that in, one of the next podcasts. But what do you think, that other people should understand about anxiety? Because I know a lot of people are like, well, you know what, you just don't have to be anxious. It's like, well, no, it takes a little more than that. It takes a lot of thought process and a lot of restructuring and and, coming to different conclusions when you get that first initial thought. So cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the biggest ones, and it works very well for restructuring negative thoughts. That's part of the psychotherapy. And then I talked about exposure therapy or desensitization therapy, which you gradually expose your fears to reduce avoidance. Now, there's in vivo and I just did it in vivo, which is in thought, and you can do it really. The snake, for example, I could keep, sensitizing myself to the snakes. I could go and have a snake around and do that. I wasn't really gung ho on that idea. So I was able to just imagine it, that every time I walked through the corner, and then enough times I walked around the corner, I did see one. Like I said, we had like 4 here. So it began to desensitize me to the idea that, yes, when I open the door, there might be a snake there. I know where all the places they go. They like to stay, we're in Arizona, so it's hot. So they get under the crevices and things like that. So I take my perimeter, walk. I have my snake boots on, and, you just go from there. But gradual exposure to the fear does reduce the avoidance of it, and it helps you practice that. Also, one of the big things I use in my practice is mindfulness-based therapy, using mindfulness to manage worry. Getting into that idea that, I decide if this is worrisome, I decide what I'm going to be to. And then we have acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, which is learning to live with the discomfort rather than fighting it. And that's kind of what I did too. So you look at all these different approaches, and they all blend really very nicely to, hit every modality and every part of your brain that is being activated by these anxiety responses. And so again, breath work and meditation, I talked about that before. Meditation at night is just fantastic, and you're engaging the parasympathetic nervous system to calm it down, to get your breathing. When you think about a lot of people, well, what happens when women have babies? What do they tell you to do? Breathe. I've had 3 children. I don't not know how to breathe. But when your body is in that state of panic, like, oh my goodness, I just had a contraction. I've never felt that before. And now my brain says, guess what? They're going to get worse, and they're going to come faster, and they're going to be more. And then you're really like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you can go into that anxious place. You can continue to reset yourself by doing breath work. Breath work is hugely important. It really calms everything pretty magically almost, and gets you in that place where you feel calm, So really working on your breathing seems very simplistic. Seems like it's not a big deal. I can breathe. I know how to breathe. Of course I know how to breathe, duh. But, there is a lot of science behind the breathing and meditation. And then your diet and exercise. Obviously, you're going to reduce inflammation and balance your neurotransmitters with what you put in your body. Substance abuse is very difficult because now you have these neurotransmitters that are, messed up in these synaptic sites, and they're really not able to balance out because you're neurochemically altering that, because ethanol alcohol is a poison. I mean, alcohol is a poison. And so that part of it alters and disrupts the balance in your neurotransmitters. Also, one of my favorites is complementary alternative medicine, which is my book that I just published, Healing Therapies in the Brain. And part of that has to do with what I learned in Reiki and what I learned. So I became a Reiki master after my own Reiki experience. And then I became a sound bowl master, I guess, after taking my classes for vibrational therapy. And, those are all hugely important. I mean, Reiki is just, super cool. And then the vibrational energies. And what I noticed is once I started doing sound baths, and once I started vibrating at the frequency of and in my journals, I have my meditation journal, I have all the frequencies and what the mindset is with them, what are the feelings engaged with them. So that's all in there. But I started being much more susceptible to sounds. And there are sounds that I will feel, and I'm like, I can't tolerate that sound. And now I know, because those are maybe lower vibration sounds and energies that I don't like. I don't like feeling that you just really, once you get into doing the sound bowls and listening to certain tones. And even when I do the sound bowls for my patients, because sometimes what I do is, so you come in for psychotherapy, maybe you do an hour and a half. We do the psychotherapy, and then maybe we end it with, 15 minutes of sound bowls, or 15 minutes of a Reiki. Usually Reiki is a lot longer, but you can do a 15-minute, Reiki session modified, just to kind of clear your chakras, clear your energies, because it's mind, body, and spirit. It's all connected. That's how I got psychotherapy for the soul. You got to do the psychotherapy element, but it's for your soul. It's for your heart. It's for your healing. It's for you inside to feel fantastic, not because anything around you is fantastic. That's not the point. The point is you feel fantastic. You feel okay. I'm okay. Yeah. It was burning. Okay. Well, it's not in my vortex. So I just want to be in my happy place. I want to be in my lazy river. I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm going to just be floating down the river and I'm going to be good. So, question for you: have you tried any therapy techniques for anxiety, and what worked best for you? Again, you can put it in the comments or DM me, because that's really an interesting part that, I would like to do a segment on and understand how this actually works on people that in general that are not my patients. But coping with anxiety is difficult. So you have all of your triggers. You got to understand what your triggers are. You have work stress, you have social situations, you have trauma, you have lack of sleep. Lack of sleep's huge, and reminders and health concerns. All these things, I think kind of the part of it is all these things are going to be there. And so you have a choice in your life to allow all these things into your vortex, or to say, no, they're here, but I have the capabilities. I have the brain capacity. I have the neuronal knowledge to start to change those networks so they fire and wire the way I want them to, and not substantial to the surroundings for us. So I think, that's part of how my journal works, right? When you're keeping a journal, you're able to express these anxiety episodes. Then you can track these patterns in your emotions, thoughts, and feelings in the environment. That is huge. That is huge, because now you have your own data points. Now you have your own log, and also writing down how your body reacted, because that's huge. So those are the connectivities that once you have that in the journal, those are the things we go over. Those are the things that we look at. So with me, my psychotherapy is very structured. And I think that's important. I think my job is to not have you all out here, because what is all this? This is all the chaos. This is all the things that we do. And we don't want this. So if I can keep you structured, change your neuronal activity, then you can do this all on your own. So a lot of the coping strategies, for managing anxiety will become very easy for you. But if, say you're at work and you get it, so, you have the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding techniques, engaging your senses and, breathing. Then you also have box breathing, 4, 7, 8 breathing, calming the nervous system. Self-talk, huge. Self-talk is huge. I am not going to react to this, because again, what is the neuropsychology behind, or neuropsychiatry behind linguistics? The whole field of linguistics is fascinating, because your thoughts control your brain. If my thoughts control my brain, maybe I can change my thoughts and change my brain. And that's what you're doing. So reframing in your self-talk, challenging the catastrophic thinking. Okay, this just happened. Oh my God, this, and this is going to happen. You stop it there. Okay, this just happened. What do I want to happen? It's down on the freeway. I don't have anybody to have somebody to call, right? Well, now my car is going to be ruined. Now I'm going to have to get a new car. How am I going to get to work? I can't get to work because now I don't have a car. So you've already planned out the next, 2, 3 weeks of your life being a catastrophe, when in fact, you could step back and say, okay, my car just broke down. But you know what? I'm going to call so-and-so when you get picked up. Car will get taken care of. If not, I'll have other things to do. But I think it will. I think this is all going to be good. And if I need a new car, okay, well, then I'm just going to have to figure out how to do that now. And so reframing is really part of the CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, You have to reframe these events and these things in your life to change your thinking, to change your brain. And then also, obviously, yoga and meditation, visualization, all those things are huge. Yoga kind of always brings you back into the breathing, right? So that is, what we talk about all the time, anyways, is the breath work. And also, the meditation creates this kind of, you get yourself into your vortex, you get into this insulated place where you feel safe. And you're telling yourself all these things, and your body starts doing what you tell it to do. And understanding that anxiety is not a weakness. Everybody has anxiety, whether they will tell you they do or they're not. It is a normal response. Anxiety is a normal response. Fight or flight, it's a normal response for everything, but you have to control it. You have to, with the right tools, the right training, and all of those things, you can control that and you can lessen the impact. And it's never that we have this delusion in psychotherapy that everything's going to go away and you're going to be totally perfect and there isn't going to be anything that happens. That's not it. Your anxiety will always be there. But what you do have the ability to do is modulate it and make it healthy for you and make you learn from other people and learn from other instances that, hey, because the first time you have this anxious response and you stop it, you reframe it, and you don't do it that way, you feel so much better. And then what does that do? That makes you do it again and again and again because it's been successful. So now what happens? All of your neurons are now firing in a different direction. They're not going into panic mode. They're going into cognitive, I got this. This is good. We'll just figure this out. We'll go from here and go to there. I am not going to go to 2 weeks out. I'm going to go to today. So there is part of that living in today and living in, the place where you feel safe and you feel controlled. But you're controlled because you have controlled your mind. You have controlled the anxiety. You have controlled all those things to keep yourself grounded in the present and not allowing yourself to get into your hamster wheel. You always have the choice. You can go in your hamster wheel or you can go into your lazy river. And the reason I give these analogies or these visual imagery is you have to get that visual imagery working in yourself for anxiety. The visual imagery is huge. So whatever it is, my daughter says, I am a calm blue ocean. I am a calm blue ocean. And I find myself doing that sometimes when I start to get an anxiety response. And I'm like, no. So whatever it is that fits for you, whatever it is that you can see in your brain, what can you visualize? Maybe it's some place that you go all the time where you feel happy. Whatever your happy place is, that's what you have to have constantly in your brain. But for today, before we wrap up, let's take a moment to calm the nervous system with a quick grounding process. This is great for any of those times where anxiety just kind of comes on and you're like, oh my God, what do I need to do? So initially, I would say take yourself out of a situation. So say you're at work and this situation comes up. You can excuse yourself, go to the bathroom, and again, take a deep breath, slowly inhale, notice the space around you or the air, the sensation of your feet in the ground. That's the grounding part. You have to feel like your feet are just structured, like you're a tree and your legs are your tree trunks and your feet are the roots. That's how you have to feel. And then you have to feel your body settling into the moment. Let each tension go with each breath. In with gratitude, out with release. In with gratitude, out with release. And again, it's repetition. And that's what kind of helps you. And then you have to, in part of the grounding yourself, you use the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. 5 things you can see. So you look around, you name 5 things, any 5 objects. 4 things you can feel, textures around you, clothing, chair, air on your skin. So you sit there, or the sun on your face, right? 3 things you can hear. Tune in and listen. When you close your eyes, you hear more things. Listen to distant sounds, whatever it is. And the sound doesn't have to be a great sound. It's just you're refocusing your brain now on different things. 2 things you can smell. Maybe it's oils, coffee, anything calming in the air. And 1 thing you can taste, even if it's your breath. you can still taste the sensation. So now you're getting into your olfactory sensations. So you're kind of getting into all of the systems in your brain to recenter you back to your calm, recenter you back to your place. And as you continue breathing, repeat out loud. I like silently, but I do like out loud. I am safe in this moment. I am safe in this moment. I can breathe through this feeling. I can breathe through this feeling. This too shall pass. Take one final deep breath, hold it, and let it go. Anxiety might feel overpowering at times, but remember, you do have the tools and you are never alone in this journey. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you tomorrow for another conversation on mental wellness. I think the best part of having some of these techniques is that you feel like you have control. And that's what you want to feel like, because when you feel anxious, you feel out of control. So try to do different techniques, share what works for you, and subscribe and share the podcast and spread the awareness. And day 5 tomorrow, we'll discuss depression, what it looks like, and how to navigate through the depressive symptomologies and how to get to healing. And it ties in with the anxiety because there's a lot of things that we do the same, but it's just a different premise. So thank you for joining the Healing Mind podcast, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.